It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
So recently, I put out a video about what heroes to level up for the Outland boss fights, and a YouTube community member, one of the people that I chat with on occasion, a little bit more now than before, Smarged Chaos, actually made some great comments on that video about how the heroes that I'd suggested don't really work at the very high level, and I got to admit, being below level 100, I asked other people and pulled information from different Discord chats and Facebook chats about what heroes to use. And Smart Chaos had some input on the heroes that I chose and what heroes he would suggest, and I think it was good enough to make a second video based on his comments. So I'm gonna read a little bit of what he said. I'm gonna add some stuff here and there, but this video was more for the high level Outland boss fights, much higher level than the new player is going to see for a while. These heroes that you're going to be building up here, I probably wouldn't recommend for, um, while leveling up. In some cases, maybe yeah, but in other cases, you really want to hold off on leveling up these heroes until gold isn't an issue anymore. Maybe once you're pulling in millions of gold a day from your Titan spheres, or you're capped out your other heroes and you're looking for other heroes to level up. So here are some of those notes based on based on like what he said and what he thinks is very effective, and it sounds good, so thought I'd put it out there. So first of all, for the Alyssa fight for the spider boss, he said that Ginger and Kira having the same purpose for Alyssa, basically killing all the mini spiders, having both of them is kind of redundant, and while both heroes are great to level up with and use an in-game arena and grand arena teams, and in the tower, I kind of agree with him. Having both does kind of make the situation a little redundant. He said if I had to pick one, that the only difference between the two is Ginger is more magic defensive, and her cleaning up utility is easily controllable, while Kira is a bit harder to use. She performs a bit better at cleaning up the mini spiders without having to use her ultimate ability, and her physical durability is a little bit higher. Additionally, she stands in front of Ju and protects him from the mini spiders, so that's kind of cool. So she just kind of holds out longer than Ginger, so that's kind of the point. Instead, Smart Chaos suggests I use Fox or Dante. And the reason why is because of Fox's armor penetration that she can add. Basically adding a ton of damage for a very short burst if you time it correctly. Additionally, Fox has great crowd control abilities, multiple skills to use that cause blindness, stun, and knockback, and how you can use it to your advantage to either blast Alyssa with the ultimate to stun her for a brief amount of time, or how you can blast away the mini spiders and get that guaranteed blindness effect, which will help keep your Kira or whoever is tanking, quote unquote tanking, keep them up longer. Dante's utility as an alternative lies in the fact that he can tank okay, and thanks to his exceptional mitigation and defensive stats, I guess he's got decent health, armor, magic defense, and dodge. Not to mention having the ability to cast his shield every 2.5 seconds, every now and then, or the shield for 2.5 seconds every now and then, I should say. And he can also do a little bit of the mini spider cleanup, also speeding up one random ally, and the massive agility buff that he provides to your team is also beneficial. He also stands in front of Ju, protecting Ju from the mini spiders, and the longer Ju stays up, if that's your team's focus on defeating Alyssa, the more damage that he can put out. And he mentioned that your damage might be a little bit less if you use Dante, but he'll probably never die unless you get really bad luck. And yeah. Oh, he also said that the artifact weapon increases the dodge, which of course that's true. And so anything to help keep your front line up in any part of this game obviously is a good idea. So the suggested team for high level that he and others have mentioned to me would be Kira, Ju, Cornelius, Jet or Fox, and then Martha. So I've already talked a little bit about Fox. Let's talk about Jet a little bit. Jet's kind of hard to get being in the Soul Coin shop. So I wouldn't mention this in an introductory video, but since we're talking about, higher level attempts, above level 100, above level 120, that kind of, boss fights, you probably have access to Jet, and maybe you've spent some time leveling him up. But he's got a lot of health. His magic defense is pretty good, and he fights way in the back, so he doesn't usually get touched by any of the mini spiders or some of Alyssa's attacks. His main purpose is a little bit of extra healing, the attack and attack speed buff for the one hero with the most physical attack, and also a critical hit chance for the whole team. And why that's important is for teams that depend on Cornelius dealing out the most damage. He greatly benefits from more critical hit. I guess Jew's I will take your life ability lessons in usefulness as the levels go on. I'm unsure about that. I actually haven't leveled up Jew at all, so that's probably a mistake. But I guess if you combine Jet's buff with Jew's weapon artifact, you can get big critical hit damage with Cornelius. So yeah. So this is really hard to say, but now that I think about it, Kark sucks for high level Outland fights, and I am blinded by my love of Bob. So that's why I kind of threw him in my last video. And a lot of people would level him up for their arena and grand arena teams, and that's what they're going to dump a lot of resources into. So that's kind of where I stood with the first video. But taking a look at what his where his power, his strength really comes from, his knock-up attack, his dimensional barrier. Those don't work as well on Outland boss, on this Outland boss. So Ishmael is going to be a much better alternative. He's got his own attack speed buff. He's got his own vampirism, and Kark just doesn't really stand up as well as Ishmael does. So I would definitely go with with him instead. I already did mention King Mao. She's got the great armor debuff. As well as a good, percent damage dealing effect that could really shorten the fight. So those two. Also, I mentioned Nebula. Sticking with Nebula, that hasn't really changed. She's a good solid hero to level up no matter what you're planning on doing in this game. I mentioned a good tank. I like Galahad. But another huge miss that I made, this Mark Chaos pointed out to me that I hadn't really thought of because I was guilty of something that he mentioned here, is Rufus. Rufus, I guess, is really great against Vajar because of his meteor shower. And up until, as far as I know, his meteor shower hasn't been really anything to worry about. So I haven't really thought about building up my magic defense to combat that. But I guess higher level stuff, higher level boss fights, you definitely need Rufus's Rakashi barrier. The meteor shower just starts to do more and more damage because Vajar, I guess, has got pretty high magic penetration. And if you're not planning for that, then it can really hinder your progress. Additionally, Rufus is good for the campaign as well as some grand arena and arena fights, depending on who you're going up against. So he's a good hero to level overall anyway. So the barrier can absorb a good amount, if not all, of the meteor shower damage, heal up Rufus for quite a bit, and also just keep him alive. His magic attacks, Badger's magic attacks, I should say, against Rufus, kind of prevent him from dying because Rufus needs to die from a physical attack, and because of Vajar's primary attacks are magic damage, and Rufus has got pretty high health. His low other defenses don't matter as much, in this particular scenario. Plus, he's got a pretty good armor boosting artifact as well, as being able to inflict pure damage on the boss. So, just kind of looking at this again, the best physical tank you've got, in my case, Galahad, Rufus, Ishmael, King Mao, and then Nebula. All right. So finally, let's talk about a little bit of high-level Brog fighting. Obviously, Orion and Dorian are both good in this fight, and my intention with the first video was not to suggest only those two heroes are necessary forever. That would be dumb. You can put 5 heroes in there, and why wouldn't you? So having a good, obviously having a good team around Orion is very good. So the first hero that I would suggest would be Helios. He can create protective spheres that will protect the whole team from a couple attacks, depending on how high you leveled him up. He can boost the whole team with armor boosting artifacts, and he's also got the flaming sphere. Flaming sphere that deals constant damage that stacks very well with Orion's magic penetration buff. Which, because of Orion's constant damage output, because of his ultimate is constantly up, the magic penetration buff is usually always up. Also, Mojo. Mojo is good for his purple ability. His ability is great at stacking Orion's damage even further, and it works even after Mojo dies. So what would be suggested would be not to do anything with Mojo other than keep him at max level and keeping his purple ability maxed. So that's all I would spend on there. Krista is actually not that great. And because Lars doesn't really have the ability to do his knockup, kind of like Kark doesn't either, they kind of lose usefulness. So instead, Celeste, Satori, or Jorgen, who overall have great uses beyond just the small things that Krista and Lars can bring to the table. Celeste and Satori are both capable of damaging through their basic attacks. I guess they're one of the few heroes in the game that's basic attacks are magic damage. Celeste hits them harder and provides a little bit of healing. And because of that, she's probably a little bit better of a choice than Satori, because Brog doesn't get any bonus energy. So Satori's niche ability of, doing a bunch of damage to opponents that gain bonus energy don't really have much of an impact. So the new suggested team from Smart to Chaos would be Celeste or Jorgen, Mojo, and then of course Orion, Dorian, and Helios. They're pretty self-explanatory. Orion and Dorian, I should say. Helios and Celeste are great supporters of Orion and Dorian, and Jorgen, instead of Celeste, because he's within Dorian's vampirism aura, and he's a little tankier than what you would have with Krista. So that's pretty good. The protection shield is good. The energy doubling is pretty interesting. If it lands on the right hero, and magic attack boosting is in effect a whole lot more often than Krista's, because Krista is going to be in an ice block for most of the time. I thought that her being in the ice block would be advantageous as a tank, but I guess Jorgen is tanky enough that he can handle a couple of hits, as well as providing more utility because he's not stuck in a block of ice. So his ultimate skill hits for quite a bit more when you take into account Orion's magic penetration buff as well. So the point of this second video was to illustrate a point that I get hit with a lot. And Smart Chaos was he was not intending to be mean about his comments. He wasn't trolling me or being toxic or leaving a negative review. The main point is that there are 46 heroes in this game, and there's a lot of ways to play this game. There's a lot. In some parts of this game, it can be a little bit more forgiving on what heroes you choose. And the reason why I felt the need to make this video, after reading some of his comments and talking to some people in my Discord about some of his comments, was the Outland boss fights are a little narrower. I should say they're a lot more narrow because of the limited hero choices that you get. It makes it a lot more straightforward on what's the best, quote unquote, best heroes for a job. When you're talking about the best heroes for arena, are we talking about attacking or defending? Are we talking about a server that's full of Lars Krista teams? Are we talking about a server that's full of Kark faceless teams? Is it a Galahad, King Mao? So you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of ways to complete the campaign. There's a lot of ways to fight in the arena. There's a lot of great compositions for the tower, and everybody's going to have success in different things. But the reason why I wanted to make this video as a quote unquote high level Outland boss fight, who should I level kind of video, is because of how narrow the focus is on what is actually best and what isn't as good. And again, some of these heroes you might not touch at all in your quest from level 1 to level 120 or level 130, depending on your platform. They you might not want to level up Mojo. You might not want to waste any gold on leveling up Mojo at all. He's not great. He's okay, but he's not great. And having him leveled up for that, his particular boss fight is actually, a great idea, and one that I hadn't really considered because I didn't really consider him or her. Is it a her? Is Mojo him or her? I don't know. I think it's a him. Yeah, he's not wearing a shirt. That's a him. I wouldn't consider them. I just wouldn't. So yeah. If you like this video, I don't plan to do, follow-up revision videos for every video that somebody comments negatively on. But, again, I felt that it was niche enough to make this video. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks.